Usiku saa 3:30 hivi nilipigiwa simu tarehe 29. Nikapigiwa, msichana alinipigia analia. Sema Dono. Mam, Dono. Mimi nasema kwani Dono amepiga ama ni nini? Nikasema ngoja mimi napigia yeye. Nikipigia kijana simu ashiki, nikimpigia ashiki. Sasa nikasema asira yake ndio labda anafanya asishike simu ama nini. Tena baadaye wajirani yake mama mmoja amesema hali ni mbaya, ufike haraka usiulize Dono. Nikashangaa, nikachukua pikipiki mimi na mzee tukakimbia kufikia msichana analia. Nikauliza ni nini mnajazana hapa, kuna nini? Mimi nafikiri yeye amepiga msichana, kumbe yeye ameuliwa. Tulikuta maiti yake, mwenye wameua nasikia ni serikali.
Extrajudicial killings is an old problem in Kenya. You could say maybe to some extent it can date back to the Moi days in the 90s when there was a lot of killings, especially during public demonstrations. But then it assumed a different dimension during the Kibaki era, when Kibaki was going after Mungiki, and we saw a totally different change to the way the government was officially now administering EJEs and accepting it as a normal practice.
The Missing Voices Coalition from 2007 to October 2022 recorded at least 1,264 cases of police killings and 237 enforced disappearances.
During Kibaki, when he was pursuing Mungiki, there was both extrajudicial killings and disappearances. There are some people who are suspected of being Mungiki who are disappeared. To this day, they have never been found. So with Al-Shabaab coming in 2010, that's where now we begin to see the latest phase of extrajudicial killings. There were the likes of Musa Osodo and his team that were being accused of bombing a country bus station. And Musa Osodo and all the others were disappeared, I think 2011, 2012. And then we saw that extrajudicial killings and disappearances now evolve into a formal policing way for Kenya. And then they started applying it to petty crime and even just as a way of fighting crime in the informal settlements.
Many of these victims who are taken out and disappeared by police are from marginalized communities across Kenya, notably Nairobi, Kisumu, Coast and Northeastern.
Askari wawili, mmoja alimpiga risasi moja, pale alipigia tuliona damu yake, bali alilala, na tena amegongeshwa hapa, imeangushwa, kisasi ilipiga hapa.
Many victims of police excesses are from low-income neighborhoods.
Hizi vices zina happen mtaani na si D2 peke yake. Ukienda Kayole, ukienda Umoja, ukienda Korokocho, ukienda Madhari na Kibra, mara mingi vijana, na tunajua vijana wengi mtaani hawana kazi. So utapata vijana wako bezo, wametulia tu, kidogo wamekuja, wameshikwa wote, wamerushwa kwa Mariamu.
The critical question that keeps popping up are, why are extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearance happening in Kenya? And why are the victims mostly young, poor and marginalized communities?
In many of these communities, you'll find that crime and violent extremism is also on the high. The flip side of it is that the police claim that these communities are hotspot areas, and that is why they engage with them more vigorously as compared to other upmarket communities.
Watu vile wamepiga, vile yeye msichana anasema wawili tu alirudi hivi. Baadaye walikuja kutafuta risasi ile aliyempigwa naye, alikuja kutafuta kwa msituni vile anatuambia.
It never used to be like that. Part of it started when Ole Lenku at first, I think 2014. Ole Lenku issued a shoot to kill order, if you remember. And then Kaiseri came back and repeated that order, shoot to kill, police have a power to shoot to kill, that's when now it became very formal, normalized and accepted that police have authority to kill.
If a youth is killed in Kayole or in Dandora, in any informal settlement, it's not taken as something to focus on, like when a politician is killed.
Kenya passed the Prevention of Terrorism Act 2012, which gave security agents sweeping powers to arrest and detain suspects of terrorist act. However, the definition of Terrorism Act is broad and anyone can be arrested.
Mtoto wangu alipotea tarehe 18 Januari akiwa dereva ya Uber. Alikuwa ameamka hiyo siku. Alikuwa naishi Komoro. Aliamka na akakuja hapa kwangu ikiwa kitu saa 5:30 akiwa na furaha sana. Na akawacha kama ameniaga tu. Mtoto wangu hataka kumaliza dakika 30 nikapigiwa simu. Nikaambiwa ameshikwa na askari. Na wamesema wamempeleka kwa hapo John Saga. Venye nilifika hapo nikakuta wale marafiki wake walikuwa nao, wakaniambia Sali amepelekwa John Saga na tumeenda hatujampata.
In 2001, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution number 1373, which guided members on how to fight terrorism. The resolution reaffirms the need to combat by all means, in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts.
Underlying premise of it is national security. Yeah? So we find that it's there's double speak. You know, we have these frameworks which governments are coming up with, which on the surface appear very progressive, aligning with human rights. When you actually interrogate these frameworks, we find that there are specific articles which are actually progressive to human rights and making it susceptible to communities who are targeted for the fight against crime and also the war on terror.
The Missing Voices Coalition in 2021 released a report which documented many unresolved court cases presented by victims and survivors seeking justice.
For the last 4 years, we are now at the point where we are waiting judgment, but it keeps being postponed. Now this woman has been going to court for her son's justice for 4 years, and just when we are about to get a verdict, there's these games the court is playing. That's how we understand it. That we can't understand anything else. So that's a problem. And it's a judicial problem. And how do we address? Because now as we are on the outside, we are not part of the judiciary, but we'd like to put it out there that justice delayed is justice denied, and it's making victims pull away from trying to seek this justice.
Cases against police that end up in court take an inordinate amount of time to be concluded, with endless adjournments that frustrate justice at the detriment of victims' families.
Askari nisikia siku hiyo ameshikwa, kutoka siku hiyo tunafuatilia aonekane kesi yake mahali iko hatujui.
Ni uchungu. Ukiwa umezaa mtu toka mfikisi hapo. Alafu hujai hata yatanguka makafujika mahali. Narudi na muzika bila vitu zingine.
There has to be accountability for the killings. You cannot just look the other side and let it go and hope that the public will forget.
Tuko na serikali mpya, lazima watilie mkazo kuchange venye system ina work. Na nikisema system ni system ya makarao. Kama watashika mtu juu ameduma kosa, ashikwe na asipigwe. Apelekwe kama ni police station, wafuate due process, investigation ikifanywa apelekwe kotini, akiwa na makosa afungwe, kama ana waachiliwe.
We need to retrain all police officers in this country. Let them view Kenyans as potential partners in provision of security, not as potential criminals.
Basically, being poor in this country is criminalized. Hawking, touting, prostitution, these laws actually target the status of the person and not necessarily a criminal activity. So I think what needs to happen first, we need to repeal all of these English laws that are not serving us. Because even the 2010 Constitution has not necessarily been able to alleviate the suffering that comes with the English laws or the Victorian laws, which we still have in our penal codes. And this makes a lot of people vulnerable.
I'd like to speak for the Kenyan youth, especially for us in informal settlements. Mayouth tumedharauliwa sana, tunaishi na fear kwa nchi yetu. Kupatana na karau unaingizia, hizo ni gani? Sisi hatutaki hizo vako. Tunataka kufeel safe kwa nchi yetu. Na gava iko na responsibility ya to protect, not just for our security issues, but also mayouth wetu wamekula. Mayouth wetu wakimaliza shule tumewapangiaje? What plan do we have for upcoming, for the future of Kenya? I think that's also the problem. We think short term. What's the long game for Kenyan people, for Kenyan youth, for the people coming up after us? Kama sisi already tuna graduate na hatuna majob. So we need to interrogate what's causing insecurity for Kenyans. It is a lack of something that the government can provide if there's political goodwill.
That is staying.
Missing voices have been on the forefront to campaign against police killing, and also have been in the forefront also to hold police accountable. By doing dialogues, that's where we include the community on these processes of changing that police abuse of power menace.
As we press on to end the unconstitutional killings and disappearances, I ask you to join our voices and be part of a movement that we want to see a society free from police excesses. Join us today and help spotlight these abuses, find justice for victims, and stop the violation for good, and contribute to make our country better for yourself and those to come.
Mbono unavuna penye haukupanda, umefanya hadi mama mboga na nyanya, jeshi ya mjengo wanatreki hawa afford nganya, misa niko open kakeje imepigwa koto, na courage ya kudiscourage tuanzia na encourage usoto, referee balance your game ataka coaches ni mtol, tumerevise sana shida, Mungu fungua ukurasa wa maendeleo, angalau watoto wetu wapate ya kesho.